that it has been my instinct that has brought me here today to be sitting right in front of this camera as I'm talking to you about this journey and discovery through listening to my instinct. Now, it was never as easy as it has been since Reconnective healing came into my life. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that I've always been pretty much at odds with listening to my own instinct, and thinking about the reasons for it. I can think of a multitude of possibilities for that to be so. Maybe I trusted the voice of authority over my own inner voice telling me what was needed, what is it that I needed to do at any given time. Maybe it was because I created an idea of what that voice needed to sound like, and in that parameter of understanding and thinking that this is the way to do things, I could not see my own or hear my own. I am also maybe thinking that in many ways there's a sense of power that came over being able to just deny myself whatever was coming through this voice, thinking that in me exerting this power over it was me showing how I could fit in better in whatever the environment was. I was in an industry that it is still mostly male. I can see some reasons for me wanting to be as powerful in my approach to what would have been considered or was considered by so many, the female intuition, or just going out of the little box to rethink things in a way that really normally could bring a lot of embarrassment. And maybe I was not comfortable with being embarrassed by speaking whatever was coming through my instinct. But I gotta tell you, as I said, I can see now from where I'm here right now how many times I actually went against my own inner voice. And I wonder now, as I sit here talking with you, and I am remembering those occasions, as to the lessons learned. Now that for me, instinct has become such a clear gateway into not only who I really am, my real essence, but also to what I can only term this whole suite of superpowers we all have. And I mentioned about, this female intuition. And yes, I went pretty much through my life very much in the understanding that this whole thing about intuition was this power to predict the future. And I was fascinated with that. But the ability to predict anything was of truly something that resonated with me. Perhaps again, we all have these power trips about how can we control things. Being a director, yes, that's there. It always is. In the arena that I was developing myself as a professional, though, the ability to predict certain things is always very beneficial. For example, how are some topics and themes going to do in the box office if you're making a movie, or predict how people are going to like a series? In that journey to understand instinct for the power it truly is, it really took a personal reconnection. I walked into a convention in Los Angeles as I was researching a paranormal documentary that I was later to start producing, and I knew that I needed to educate myself more on the subject. I really didn't know much. So I received it was the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles, and I had the brochure. I didn't know any of the speakers. None of the speakers there I've ever heard of before. Who is Greg Braden, David Wilcock? Who are these people? Lynn McTaggart? I have no idea who these people are. And then suddenly there's Eric Pearl. And that one, suddenly something happened. Something totally unexpected. That one, I heard a voice that was so clear. It said, that one. And I said, oh, okay. looks interesting. Let's go for that one. I now know that voice. I know now that voice. To me, at that moment, I thought it was one of the many wandering thoughts, intellectual thoughts, that immediately do a prediction about the possibilities of something being exactly what I need or don't need. That it's not coming truly from my inner voice, it's just coming from logical deduction. So that was the very first time I heard that voice be as clear as I can hear it now. So really, it started with reconnective healing. And after my personal reconnection, that voice became crystal clear for me. And when I first started hearing it clearly, it was an incredible surprise, because it happened in the middle of the night. I was in bed. I was a little bit upset. I was attending the first night, the Friday night of the what we call now the Lab Immersion Weekend, the Catalyst. It was level 2, and it was in San Diego. And I had just come in from the American Film Market. I kind of told my business partner, said, look, I gotta do this. I'm just gonna go with it because it's coming from something bigger than me. I gotta do this. And I had decided I needed to train. So I drove from Los Angeles to San Diego. It was the very first night. It was the Friday night. And I had gone to bed pretty upset. I was not resonating with not reconnective healing, but with what was in front of me at all. And I was like, I'm getting in a car and I'm going back to LA. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? When suddenly, out of the blue, this voice came in and said, stay. That's all it said. Stay. And it was so powerful and so calming at the same time. It was by just saying that word, this anxiety, this anger, this feeling out of place, suddenly, whoops, disappeared. It just melted away, and it kind of set me back into the core reasons for what I had decided just a month before that I really needed to learn about reconnective healing. And it was also a voice that reminded me of home, but not home as in my home country and my parents and my family, but another home, the place where we all come from and we all go back to. And with just saying that word, just saying stay, it was like a full rush of all these tangible moments and feelings and thoughts and experiences that just rushed in that single word. And it I don't want to say grounded me, but it reminded me that this is who I am now, and this is who I've always been. And I recognized that voice as being the voice that I had heard when I first went to that Conscious Life Expo, and had said, okay, this one. From then on, the clarity of that voice has just grown, and it has entirely to do with living in these frequencies, interacting with these frequencies. It simply clears the way for the voice of your instinct, for our instinct to come through. And in there is what I had suspected as a child, a whole world in which we are capable of things we cannot even dream of fully here in our 4D world. It starts giving you a glimpse into everything else that we are, that you are, that I am, and allows you to start exploring these things in the safety of the certainty that starts to come into your life when you are listening again to your instinct, because this instinct really is the gateway to all these superpowers we really are. And these superpowers extend and expand beyond anything that you may think possible in your life right now. And I'm going to give you an example. It's the knowingness that you're okay or you're safe. It's the knowingness that you need to get out of the way. It's the knowingness that no matter what, things, whichever way they look, they're going to work out. And I was recently visiting my parents in Puerto Rico, and I remember that it was early morning, and it was an Epiphany. It was the celebration of Epiphany in Puerto Rico, and I immediately woke up, and I knew something. I knew something, but I could not verbalize it. I knew something, and it was coming. It was coming in a very specific message, and the message was, "Stay in the bed. Everything is fine." I'm putting it to words. It didn't speak. The voice doesn't necessarily speak. I'm calling it an inner voice, but sometimes it doesn't speak at all. You just know, okay? So I'm there. It's split in millisecond. We have an earthquake. For Puerto Rico, this is like a big event after 100 years of not having big earthquakes. So it was shaking hard enough that my bed and my whole bedroom was thrown from side to side multiple times. Enough to, normally, having lived in California, I would have simply just jumped out of bed, jumped to the side of the bed, and tried to get protection because it got that strong. Instead, the voice said, or I just knew, "Stay in bed. Everything is fine." I did. Sure enough, nothing really fell over or truly broke. A few things did topple over, but nothing that it was terribly dangerous. So I go to the living room to check on my parents to see how they were doing. Of course, everybody was in extreme frights, and there was a little bit of panicking going on. And I simply knew that it was okay. And in being that okay, in that certainty of it's okay, it's fine, but knowing that it was fine, it started expanding an atmosphere that started calming everybody else in that moment. It was like a balm, like a soothing balm, just expanded, just like that word had done for me so many years ago while I was on that Friday night in my hotel bedroom and I heard "stay." It was doing the same thing for everybody else. And you know, when we do listen and we allow for that certainty to become part of our daily life, no matter what it is that we're doing, it affects not only obviously you, us, it affects everybody around you as well, because it just enables you to be in that awareness so fully that then the frequencies are free to really expand. There's nothing to hinder them. You're not stepping in the way, in your own way, for this beautiful gift to just find, feel, and touch the lives of so many people around us. So I'm discovering now that instead of doing through all this effort of trying to get into that perfect flow for writing or trying to get in that perfect situation that which allows me to do a prediction for, I don't know, sales or projections, I just let this voice, I just let my instinct inform me of what is the answer that is needed. Not the correct answer, not the wrong answer, just the answer that is needed. And in knowing that, it's such a freedom. The superpower that comes with the prediction, comes to certainty of the instinct, the voice of your instinct, has nothing to do with that logical thinking of how things may happen or not happen, or which way the cookie crumbles or will crumble, right? It just is. You just know. And even if you cannot translate it, you cannot transduce it, you cannot get people to understand why you're doing things, when you're in the certainty of your instinct, your other superpowers, you don't need to explain yourself, because it comes part of that certainty. It's like, it is, and there you have it. There's nothing else for you to try and explain or adapt to or try to fit in because of it. Or I don't find myself that, this is, I'm boxing, that I need to put something in a box. It's out, and it's out there, and that's it. It is, because it needs to be. your biggest, wildest, craziest dream of superpowers or who you are is even bigger. It's more than that, much more than that. It's the infinite self. It's infinity. It is all that is. Or as in Solomon says, Solomon speaks on Reconnected Your Life, that beautiful moment in which it says, your instinct is the sum total of all your experiences. And that doesn't mean only what you've accrued here, but think about it for a second. It's everywhere that you exist, that you and I exist. Since we exist everywhere at the same time, it's infinite experience, and therefore all the knowledge and the knowingness of the universe, it's already at our very literal fingertips. And there is such a great relief when you know, when you really know how things truly are and how they are for you and those around you, without any effort, without having to rack your brain, without feeling guilty about knowing things, without having the need to try and impress anyone or convince anyone or prove a point. Because you have this too. I have it, everybody has it, we all have our instinct. And allowing it to come through loud and clear, it is the gateway to tapping onto all these limitless superpowers that we all carry within. They're ours, they're mine. I'm tapping onto mine. I invite you to tap into yours. Listen to your instinct.